The stars burned cold in the darkness of space as the UHNS Mercy's light glided through the war zone. The massive white vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull marked with bright red crosses visible from thousands of miles away. Inside the ship, Captain Jiwoo Park stood on the bridge, watching the debris field ahead with careful eyes. "Another battle," said Lieutenant Yuna Shin from her station. Her fingers moved across the tactical display, counting the wreckage. "Looks like it happened maybe 6 hours ago. I'm reading life signs in 2 of the escape pods." Jiwoo nodded slowly. "Bring us in. Activate all identification beacons. I want every ship within 10 light years to know exactly who we are." The galaxy had been at war for over a century. 2 massive empires, the Valon Dominion and the Kresh Collective, had been tearing each other apart for longer than most species could remember. Millions had died. Entire planets had been reduced to ash. And through it all, Earth had refused to choose a side. The other species thought humans were cowards. They didn't understand. Earth had seen enough war in its own history to know that some fights had no winners, only survivors. So humanity had chosen a different path. They would heal, not harm. They would save lives, not take them. Dr. Yoonji Kim met the rescue teams in the medical bay. She was a small woman with steady hands and kind eyes that had seen too much death. "How many?" she asked. 43 from the Valon ship, 37 from the Kresh transport," the rescue chief reported. "Some of them are in bad shape." "Prep surgical suites 1 through 6, Yoonji ordered. "And keep them separated until we know they won't try to kill each other in our hallways." It was always like this. The Valon and Kresh hated each other with a fury that burned hotter than stars. Even dying, even bleeding out on the floor, they would try to finish the fight. But not on the Mercy's light. Here the only rule was survival. Here enemies became patients, and patients were sacred. Jiwoo walked through the medical bay hours later, after the worst of the emergency surgeries were done. He stopped beside a bed where a young Valon soldier lay recovering. The alien's blue skin was pale from blood loss, but he would live. In the bed next to him, a Kresh warrior rested. Her reptilian features relaxed in drug-induced sleep. 6 hours ago, they had been trying to kill each other. Now they breathed the same recycled air, their wounds tended by the same human hands. "You think they'll ever make peace?" Yoonji asked, coming to stand beside him. "No," Jiwoo said honestly. "This war is all they know now. They've forgotten what they were fighting for. They only remember that they hate each other. And Earth? Earth remembers what war costs. That's why we're here." On the other side of the galaxy, in the grand chambers of the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Taejin Lee stood before a council of angry aliens. He was a tall man with gray in his hair and the kind of tired eyes that came from fighting the same battle for 20 years. "Earth must choose," demanded the Valon representative, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Your neutrality is an insult. We offer you technology, territory, and trade. Join us, and together we will crush the Kresh." Before Taejin could respond, the Kresh ambassador rose, her scales rattling with anger. "The Valon speak lies. They offer poison wrapped in promises. Earth should stand with the Kresh collective. We fight for freedom against tyranny." Taejin looked between them, these 2 species who had been killing each other for so long they couldn't even remember why. "With respect," he said carefully, "Earth chooses neither. We choose to save lives instead of taking them. Our hospital ships have treated over 2 million casualties from both sides. We have asked for nothing in return." "You are coward," spat the Valon representative. "Perhaps," Taejin agreed calmly. "But our cowardice has saved more lives than your bravery has taken. We will continue our work. Earth will not join your war." He left the chamber to the sound of their arguments already starting again before the door closed behind him. His aide, a young woman named June, fell into step beside him. "Do you ever think they'll understand?" she asked. "No," Taejin said. "But it doesn't matter if they understand. It matters that we do." Across the void of space, aboard the Valon flagship Eternal Reign, Admiral Minho Choi watched a recording of the Galactic Assembly session. He was human, though he hadn't set foot on Earth in 15 years. He had left seeking glory, seeking purpose, seeking something more than the quiet life Earth offered. The Valon had welcomed him. They had given him command, respect, and the chance to fight in the greatest war the galaxy had ever known. He had risen through their ranks faster than any alien, proving that humans could be warriors, not just healers. "Cowards," he muttered, watching Taejin's speech. "All of them. Hiding behind neutrality while the galaxy burns." His second officer, a Valon commander named Rek, tilted his head. You believe Earth should join the war? I believe Earth is wasting its potential, Minho said. Humans are brilliant tacticians, fierce fighters, and quick learners, but they're too afraid to use their gifts. They would rather play nurse to their enemies than stand up and fight. And the hospital ships? Minho's jaw tightened. Tools of cowards. They save Kresh lives so those same Kresh can kill more Valon soldiers. Every life they save is a future enemy on the battlefield. Rick was silent for a moment. The treaties protect hospital ships. To attack one would be what? Minho interrupted. Would be smart. Would be strategic. Would be the push Earth needs to finally choose a side. He leaned forward, studying the tactical displays. Earth will never join the war as long as they can hide behind their precious neutrality. But if someone showed them the cost of staying neutral? He left the thought unfinished, but the seed was planted. Back on the Mercy's light, Jiwoo stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Yunji found him there, as she often did during quiet hours. Thinking about home? She asked. Always, he admitted. I miss Earth, real gravity, real sky. Food that doesn't come from a recycler. We could request a transfer, go home. Let someone else fly through war zones picking up the pieces. Jiwoo smiled slightly. Could you? Could you really walk away? Knowing people would die without us? Yunji sighed. No, I suppose I couldn't. She joined him at the window. Do you think we make a difference, really? We save a few hundred lives, but millions more die in battles we never reach. We make a difference to the ones we save, Jiwoo said. That has to be enough. They stood in silence, two humans alone in the darkness between stars, holding on to hope in a galaxy that had forgotten what peace looked like. The Mercy's light moved on to its next destination, broadcasting its identification on all frequencies, its red crosses bright against the black of space. It was a symbol, a promise, a reminder that even in the darkest times, some still chose compassion over conflict. But symbols can be fragile things, and promises can be broken. In the cold calculation of war, mercy is sometimes seen as weakness, and weakness, in the eyes of those who have forgotten honor, is something to be exploited. The galaxy was about to learn that there are things more dangerous than warriors. There are healers pushed too far. There are peaceful species provoked beyond endurance. There are lines that should never be crossed. The Mercy's light sailed on, unaware that its days were numbered, unaware that the choice Earth had made so many years ago was about to be challenged in the cruelest way possible. The war continued. The galaxy burned, and humanity held firm to its principles, believing that neutrality could last forever. They were wrong. The alarm started at a 400 ship time. Jiwoo was already awake, reviewing supply reports in his quarters when the first proximity alert sounded. He was on the bridge in less than 2 minutes, still sealing his uniform jacket as he walked. Report, he commanded. Lieutenant Yuna Shin looked up from her station, her face tight with concern. We have incoming. Big fleet Valon signatures. They're pushing the Kresh back through this sector. We're right in the middle of the retreat corridor. How many wounded are we tracking? Over 400 distress signals. Most of them Kresh, but some Valon too. It's a mess out there, Captain. Jiwoo moved to the command chair, his mind already running through protocols. Take us to the edge of the corridor. Maximum visibility. I want every light on this ship burning. Flood all channels with our identification codes. Let both sides know we're here to help, not fight. The Mercy's light moved into position over the next 3 hours. The medical bays filled quickly with the wounded. Kresh soldiers with missing limbs, Valon pilots burned from cockpit fires, civilians caught in the crossfire. Yunji and her team worked without stopping, moving from one surgery to the next, their hands steady even as explosions lit up the viewports. We're at capacity, Yunji reported, her voice crackling over the comm. I've got patients in the hallways. We need to set up emergency triage in the cargo bays. Do it, Jiwoo authorized. Yuna, how close is the fighting? Too close, she said. The main battle line is only 20,000 kilometers out. We're picking up weapons fire on the edge of our sensor range. Jiwoo watched the tactical display, seeing the chaos of war play out in glowing symbols and trajectory lines. This was worse than usual. The Kresh were in full retreat, and the Valon were pressing hard, not giving them time to recover. Sir, Yuna said suddenly, her voice sharp. I'm reading a Valon battle group breaking off from the main fleet. They're heading our direction. Probably bringing us more wounded, Jiwoo said. Open a channel. Let them know we have space for... Sir, They're not broadcasting distress signals. Yuna's fingers flew across her controls. They're in attack formation. The bridge went quiet. Jiwoo felt his blood go cold. Identify the lead ship. It's the Eternal Rain, Admiral Minho Choi commanding. The name hit Jiwoo like a physical blow. He knew that name. Every human in the fleet knew it. Minho Choi, the human traitor who had abandoned Earth to fight in an alien war. The man who had called them cowards for choosing peace. Broadcast our identification on all frequencies, Jiwoo ordered, keeping his voice steady. Make sure they know who we are, and activate the medical protection protocols. Show them our patient roster. They'll see we have Valan wounded aboard. The communications officer worked quickly. Broadcasting now, sir. We're showing them everything. Patient lists, treaty protections, medical certifications. They have to see we're a hospital ship. Minutes passed. The Valan battle group kept coming. They're locking weapons, Yuna said, disbelief in her voice. Sir, they're actually locking weapons on us. That's impossible, the communications officer said. We're broadcasting the medical codes. They can see. Contact the Eternal Rain directly, Jiwoo interrupted. I want to speak to Admiral Choi, now. The screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Valan flagship. Admiral Minho Choi sat in the command chair, his human features cold and hard. Behind him, Valan officers worked at their stations, faces turned away from the screen. Admiral, Jiwoo said carefully, this is Captain Jiwoo Park of the UHNS Mercy's Light. We are a hospital ship operating under Galactic Assembly protection. We have over 500 patients aboard, including 73 Valan soldiers. We are not a military target. Minho stared at him for a long moment. You are a tool of the enemy. Your neutrality helps the Kresh more than the Valan. Every Kresh soldier you save will kill more of my people tomorrow. That's not how medicine works, Jiwoo said. We save everyone. Valan, Kresh, civilian, soldier, everyone. Then you're a fool. Minho leaned forward. Earth has hidden behind its neutrality for too long. You think you're better than the rest of us because you won't fight. You're not better. You're just scared. If refusing to participate in endless war makes us scared, then yes, we're scared, Jiwoo said. But we're also right. This war has cost millions of lives and accomplished nothing. It's about to accomplish something, Minho said coldly. It's about to teach Earth the price of cowardice. The channel cut off. He's not serious, Yuna whispered. He can't be serious. We're a hospital ship. The treaties. All hands brace for impact, Jiwoo said into the ship-wide comm, his voice steady even though his hands were shaking. Medical teams seal emergency bulkheads. Get as many patients into protected areas as possible. Captain, we have to run, Yuna said urgently. Our engines are slow and civilian grade, Jiwoo finished. We can't outrun a battle group. And even if we could, we have 500 patients aboard. The acceleration would kill half of them. Then what do we do? Jiwoo looked at his crew, these people who had trusted him to keep them safe. He thought of Yunji down in medical, working to save lives even now. He thought of all the patients, Valen and Kresh and dozens of other species, lying helpless in their beds. We stay, he said quietly. We're a hospital ship. The treaties protect us. He won't actually. The first missile hit the port side, tearing through 3 decks before exploding deep inside the ship. The bridge lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red. Alarms screamed. Through the viewports, Jiwoo could see his ship, his beautiful ship that had saved so many lives, bleeding atmosphere into space. Damage report, he shouted over the noise. Port medical bay is gone, Yuna reported, tears streaming down her face. Life support failure on decks 7 through 12. I'm reading. Oh God, Captain, I'm reading massive casualties. More missiles struck. The Mercy's Light shuddered with each impact, its hull never designed to take this kind of punishment. Explosions rippled through the ship. People screamed. The smell of burning metal and plastic filled the air. Jiwoo grabbed the comm. Yunji, report, Yunji. Static answered him. Then faintly her voice came through. Jiwoo, we're trying to evacuate the patients, but there's no time. Tell Earth. Tell them we tried. Unji, hold on. We're going to. Another explosion, this one closer. The main power grid failed. The bridge went dark except for the emergency lights. Through the viewport, Jiwoo could see escape pods launching. Tiny specks of light fleeing into the darkness. Get everyone to the pods, he ordered. Abandon ship. That's an order. Captain, you need to. I'll be right behind you. Go. Yuna hesitated, then ran for the emergency exit. The other bridge officers followed. Jiwoo stayed in his chair, watching his ship die. He activated the emergency beacon, hoping someone would come for the survivors. Then he began a final transmission, his fingers steady on the controls even as the bridge filled with smoke. "This is Captain Jiwoo Park of the UHNS Mercy's Light. We are a hospital ship. We have committed no acts of war. We have harmed no one. We are protected by treaty. His voice broke slightly. We are protected by treaty. Why are you doing this? Why?" A final missile struck the command section. The transmission cut off. The Mercy's light burned in the darkness of space. Of the 2,000 souls aboard, only 247 made it to the escape pods. The rest died where they lay, patients and healers together, killed by the very people they had spent years trying to save. Admiral Minho Choi watched from the bridge of the eternal rain as the hospital ship broke apart. His face showed no emotion. "Target destroyed," his tactical officer reported. "Good," Minho said. "Now Earth will have to choose." But he was wrong about what Earth would choose. He thought he was forcing them into the war. He thought he was proving that neutrality was weakness. He had no idea what he had actually done. The recording of the attack spread across the galaxy in hours. Every species, every government, every news network showed the same images. The Mercy's light broadcasting its identification codes, the missiles streaking through space, the hospital ship burning, escape pods scattering like seeds in the wind. On Earth, in the Terran Council chambers, the recording played on every screen. 200 representatives from every nation and colony watched in absolute silence. Ambassador Taejin Lee stood in the center of the chamber. He had not slept in 2 days, racing back to Earth as soon as he heard. His hands were steady. His voice was cold as ice. "They have made their choice," he said. "Now they will learn ours." The galaxy expected Earth to complain, maybe impose some sanctions, maybe send a strongly worded message to the Galactic Assembly. That was what civilized species did when wronged. They talked. They negotiated. They filed protests. Earth went silent instead. Every human merchant ship in known space turned around and headed home. Every embassy closed its doors. Every diplomatic channel went dark. The humans who had spent decades moving through the galaxy, teaching and trading and healing, simply vanished. The Valan Dominion noticed first. They had 300 human civilians living in their territory, working as teachers and engineers and medical staff. Within 48 hours, all of them were gone. The Kresh Collective found the same thing. The neutral zones, the trading posts, the research stations everywhere humans had been, they weren't anymore. "What are they doing?" asked the Kresh High Command. "Hiding," said the Valan Emperor. "They're scared. Finally, they understand the galaxy is not safe for cowards." They were both wrong. In orbit around Earth, massive construction yards that had been dark for decades suddenly blazed with light. On Luna, huge hangar doors opened in the mountains, revealing spaces that went kilometers deep. On Mars, entire cities that tourists thought were abandoned began to hum with activity. Fleet Admiral Doyen Kang stood on the bridge of what would become the flagship of the Terran Defense Force. He was an old man, 73 years old, and he had spent the last 20 years in retirement, teaching history at a university in Seoul. But before that, he had been the architect of Earth's military doctrine, the man who had designed every protocol, every strategy, every contingency plan. "Show me what we have," he said to the young officer beside him. The holographic display lit up, showing the solar system. But this wasn't the solar system the galaxy knew. This was the real Earth, the one humans had kept hidden. Around Luna, 300 warships hung in space, each one dark and waiting. Around Mars, 500 more. In the asteroid belt, orbital foundries and shipyards that could build a fleet in months. "The Ghost Squadron is ready," reported Commander Hyunwoo Nam. He was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and the kind of confidence that came from being very, very good at something dangerous. 72 ships, all equipped with the stealth systems. "The Valan won't know we're there until we're already gone." "And the main battle fleet?" Doyen asked. 800 ships of the line. Cruisers, destroyers, and carriers. Another 300 support vessels. "We can have the entire force ready to deploy in 72 hours. Doyen nodded slowly. The galaxy thought Earth was defenseless because humans flew slow merchant ships and unarmed hospital vessels. They had never asked why Earth could build ships that crossed the galaxy. They never wondered what else Earth might be capable of building. "They broke the oldest law," Doyen said quietly. They attacked healers. They killed patients in their beds. We gave them peace and they returned it with murder. What are your orders, Admiral? Doyen looked at the display, at the ships that had been waiting in darkness, at the arsenal Earth had built but hoped never to use. Send the message, one word. Let the galaxy hear it from every human station, every relay, every broadcast array we control. What word, sir? War. The message went out across the galaxy on every frequency. Just one word in 100 languages, but everyone understood it. Earth, the neutral party, the healers, the peaceful humans had made their choice. In the training facilities beneath the surface of Mars, Sergeant Bomin Jiang watched his soldiers prepare. They were doing close-quarters combat drills, something the galaxy hadn't practiced in centuries. Why fight hand-to-hand when you could destroy a planet from orbit? Again, Bowman shouted. Faster. In real combat, you won't have time to think. His soldiers moved through the training course, their movements quick and efficient. They wore armor that was lighter than the Valons, faster than the Creches, and covered with sensors that made them ghosts on the battlefield. The galaxy fights from a distance, Bowman told them. They push buttons and launch missiles and think that makes them warriors. We're going to teach them what real combat looks like. We're going to board their ships. We're going to take their stations. And we're going to do it so fast they won't know what hit them. In the engineering bays, Sujin Huang worked on weapon systems. She was a small woman with oil on her hands and fire in her eyes. For 20 years, she had designed medical equipment and civilian technology, but before that, she had worked on Earth's defense systems, creating weapons specifically designed to counter every known military in the galaxy. The Valon rely on heavy shields and powerful main guns, she explained to her team. Their ships are tough, but they're slow, so we hit them with fast, precise strikes. We don't try to punch through their armor. We target their power systems, their engines, their life support. And the Creche? The Creche use swarm tactics. Lots of small ships, coordinated attacks. But they're not creative. They follow patterns. So we break the patterns. We show up where they don't expect us. We use the Ghost Squadron to split their formations. Then we hit them with the main fleet before they can regroup. She pulled up a display showing a Valon battleship. Red dots appeared across its hull, marking weak points, vulnerable systems, critical junctions. We've been studying their ships for decades. We know exactly where to hit them. They're going to learn that bigger doesn't always mean better. The survivors of the Mercy's Light were given a choice. They could go home, back to Earth, back to safety, or they could join the fleet. Lieutenant Yuna Shin stood before the recruitment officer, still wearing the bandages from her injuries. I want to fight, she said simply. You don't have to, the officer said. You've been through enough. I watched my captain die, Yuna said, her voice hard. I watched my ship burn. I watched patients die in their beds, people we spent years saving. I want to fight, and I'm not the only one. She was right. Every single survivor of the Mercy's Light volunteered. They were formed into a special unit, the Mercy Division, marked by a white star on their uniforms. They weren't soldiers before. They were medics and engineers and communications officers. But now they wanted something else. They wanted justice. Taejin Lee addressed the Galactic Assembly one final time. He stood where he had stood 100 times before, but now he wore the uniform of Earth's High Chancellor, not the robes of an ambassador. For a century, your empires have waged war, he said. You asked us to join you. You called us cowards when we refused. You said we were hiding from the realities of the galaxy. The assembly was silent, watching him. You were right about one thing, Taejin continued. We were hiding something, but it wasn't cowardice. It was mercy. We chose to heal instead of harm. We chose to save instead of kill. We built hospital ships instead of warships because we believed there was a better way. He stepped forward, his eyes sweeping across the gathered representatives. We were wrong. There is no better way with people like you. You understand only one language. So we will speak it. He pulled up the images of the Mercy's Light burning in space. You destroyed a hospital ship. You murdered healers and patients. You broke every law, every treaty, every basic rule of civilized warfare. You thought it would make us weak. You thought it would force us to choose a side. You were right. We choose a side. We choose the side of justice. Behind him, the display changed, showing the Terran Defense Force. 800 warships hung in space, their weapons armed, their crews ready. We are coming for the Valon Dominion, Taejin said, his voice cold and clear. We are coming for every leader who authorized the attack. We are coming for every officer who followed the order. We are coming for everyone who thought Earth's mercy was weakness. You wanted humanity in your war. Now you have us." The transmission ended. The assembly erupted in chaos, but Taijin was already gone, already on a ship heading back to Earth, back to the fleet that was preparing to launch. Admiral Minho Choi watched the transmission from the bridge of the Eternal Rain. For the first time since the attack, he felt something cold in his stomach. Fear. "They're bluffing," he said. "Earth doesn't have a fleet. They have merchant ships and hospital vessels." His Valon second officer didn't look convinced. "Sir, the scans are confirming. They have over 1,000 military vessels. Where did they come from?" "It doesn't matter," Minho said, but his voice was less certain. "We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. Whatever Earth brings, we can handle it." But deep down, in a place he didn't want to acknowledge, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The Terran Defense Force began its deployment. The Ghost Squadron went first, vanishing into the dark spaces between stars. The main fleet followed, moving in formations the galaxy had never seen before, using tactics that hadn't been used in warfare for centuries. And at the head of the fleet, on the bridge of the TDF remembered, Captain Yuna Shin looked out at the stars. She wore the uniform of the Terran Navy now, but her heart still belonged to the Mercy's light. "For Captain Park," she whispered. "For Dr. Kim, for everyone we lost." The fleet jumped to hyperspace and the galaxy held its breath. Earth had chosen war. The first strike came without warning. A Valon supply convoy, 36 ships carrying weapons and fuel to the front lines, simply vanished. No distress calls, no debris. One moment they were there on the tracking screens, the next moment they were gone. "What happened?" demanded the Valon High Command. "Unknown, sir. They just disappeared." It happened again and again. Within a week, the Valon had lost 20 supply convoys. Their fleets at the front were running low on ammunition and fuel. And still, they had no idea what was hitting them. Commander Hyunwoo Nam sat in the cockpit of his stealth fighter, watching another Valon convoy approach. The Ghost Squadron hung in space around him, invisible to every scanner the Valon possessed. 72 ships, all waiting in perfect silence. "Target the cargo vessels first," he said over the encrypted channel. "Fast and clean. No survivors to report what they saw." "Understood, Commander." The Ghost Squadron struck. One moment, the Valon convoy was alone in space. The next moment, missiles were appearing from nowhere, slamming into engines and fuel tanks and cargo holds. The Valon escort ships tried to return fire, but they couldn't see their attackers. They fired blindly into empty space while human weapons tore them apart. It was over in 3 minutes. Hyunwoo checked his scans, confirmed there were no escape pods, no emergency beacons. The wreckage would be found eventually, but by then the Ghost Squadron would be hundreds of light years away. "All ships report in," he ordered. Ghost 7, no damage. Ghost 23, all systems green. Ghost 41, returning to formation. 72 ships, all accounted for. The Valon still didn't know what was killing them. And that was the point. Fear was a weapon too. The main Terran fleet struck next, and this time there was no hiding. Fleet Admiral Doyon Kang took 800 ships deep into Valon territory, heading straight for their military strongholds. The Valon scrambled to respond. They had numbers, thousands of ships to Earth's hundreds, but the Terran ships moved differently, fought differently, thought differently. "They're using pre-war tactics," one Valon admiral reported in confusion. "Flanking maneuvers, feints, formation breaks. Nobody fights like this anymore." "Then counter them," ordered the Valon High Command. "We're trying, sir, but they're too fast. They're not engaging in formation battles. They're hitting us from multiple angles, then breaking off before we can bring our main guns to bear." It was true. The Terran ships didn't line up and trade fire like civilized militaries. They swarmed. They scattered. They attacked from unexpected directions, targeting specific systems instead of trying to punch through heavy armor. They fought like predators, not like armies. At the Battle of Crimson Nebula, the Valon lost 100 ships. The Terrans lost 2. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre, but the real shock came at Arcturus Station, the Valon Dominion's largest military base, a fortress that had stood for 300 years, home to 50,000 soldiers and enough weapons to level a planet. The Valon High Command declared it untouchable. No force in the galaxy could take Arcturus Station. They were wrong. Sergeant Bowman Jang stood in the troop transport watching his soldiers check their weapons. They were nervous. Most of them had never seen real combat before. But they had trained for this. Earth had trained them for this. Listen up, Bowman said. The station has shields that can take hits from battleship guns. They have automated defenses that can track and destroy any normal boarding craft. But we're not normal, and we're not going through the front door. The plan was insane. That's why it would work. While the Terran fleet engaged the station's defenses, drawing their attention and their fire, small boarding craft would slip through gaps in the shield system. Engineer Sujin Huang had found the weak points, places where the shields had to flex to allow ships to dock, where the power conduits ran too close to the outer hull. Once we're inside, speed is everything, Bowman continued. They're used to fighting at range. They're not used to enemies in their corridors. We move fast, we hit hard, and we don't give them time to think. The transport shook as it passed through the shield barrier. Alarms blared. Defensive turrets tracked them but couldn't fire without hitting the station's own hull. Then they were through, clamping onto the outer docking port. Go, go, go! Bauman's team burst through the airlock into a corridor full of surprised Valan soldiers. The Valan reached for weapons they weren't used to carrying, because who needed a rifle inside your own station? Bowman's team was already firing, moving, advancing. Close quarters combat. Something the Valan hadn't trained for in generations. All across the station, human teams breached the hull, small groups moving fast, targeting critical systems. They didn't try to hold territory. They destroyed power junctions, sealed blast doors, cut communication lines. They turned the station's size against it, making it impossible for the defenders to coordinate. On the bridge, Sujin Huang's team found exactly what they were looking for. The main power reactor controls. She set the charges carefully, precise and methodical. Command, this is Engineer Huang. Charges set. We have control of the main reactor. Admiral Doyen Kang's voice came through clear and steady. You have the station. Well done, Sergeant Zhang, Engineer Huang, all teams. The Valan commanders are requesting terms of surrender. 6 hours. That's how long it took to capture the most heavily defended military base in Valan space. 6 hours, and the fortress that was supposed to be untouchable was flying Earth's flag. The galaxy watched in shock as the news spread. Arcturus Station had fallen. The Terran forces had done the impossible, not with overwhelming numbers or superior firepower, but with tactics the galaxy had forgotten. They had fought smart instead of strong. The Kresh Collective saw what was happening and made a decision. They sent a message to Earth, simple and direct. We had no part in the attack on your hospital ship. The Valan Dominion acted alone. We request peace with Earth and offer our cooperation in bringing those responsible to justice. Taejin Lee read the message and smiled grimly. Accepted. Inform the Kresh that we have no quarrel with them. Our business is with the Valan alone. The Kresh pulled their fleets back, abandoning their positions, leaving the Valan to face Earth alone. The century-long war that had consumed the galaxy suddenly became irrelevant. There was only one war now, and the Valan were losing it. Admiral Minho Choi watched his empire crumble. The Ghost Squadron had crippled their supply lines. The main Terran fleet had smashed their defenses. Human boarding teams had captured their bases, and now their oldest enemy had abandoned them. We need to negotiate, his second officer said. Sir, we can't win this. Earth is too fast, too smart, too— No, Minho said. I started this. I'll finish it. He gathered the remains of his fleet, every ship he could pull from the front lines, every reserve force he could scrape together. 2,000 ships, the largest Valan battle group ever assembled. He would meet the Terrans head-on. He would prove that numbers still mattered. That experience still counted for something. The fleets met at a nameless point in space that would later be called Humanity's Stand. 2,000 Valan ships against 800 Terran vessels. On paper, the Valan should have won. Commander Hyunwoo Nam led the Ghost Squadron in first, striking at the Valan formation from a dozen different angles. The Valan fleet scattered, trying to respond to threats they couldn't see. Then the main Terran fleet hit them from the side, cutting through the broken formation like a blade. All ships, target the Eternal Rain, Admiral Doyen Kang ordered. I want Admiral Choi alive. The battle raged for 8 hours. The Valan fought bravely, desperately, but they were fighting a new kind of war and they didn't know the rules. The Terran ships danced between their larger opponents, targeting weak points, exploiting every gap in their defenses. When it was over, half the Valan fleet was destroyed or disabled. The Eternal Rain hung dead in space, its engines gone, its weapons silent. Captain Yuna Shin led the boarding team personally. She walked through the corridors of the Valon flagship, stepping over debris and unconscious crew members. She had lost friends here, people she loved. Now she had come to collect what was owed. She found Admiral Minho Choi on the bridge, still sitting in his command chair. He looked up as she entered, and for a moment there was recognition in his eyes. Two humans on opposite sides of a war that should never have happened. "I was trying to help," Minho said quietly. "I thought if I could force Earth to fight, we could end the war. The Valon and humanity together, we could have brought peace to the galaxy." Yuna thought of Captain Park, dying on the bridge of the Mercy's Light. She thought of Dr. Kim, trying to save patients until the very end. She thought of all the people who had trusted in Earth's neutrality, who had believed that healing was stronger than hate. "We had peace," she said. "You destroyed it. And for what? Glory? Pride? The approval of aliens who used you to do their dirty work?" Minho had no answer. "Admiral Minho Choi," Yuna said formally, "by the authority of the Terran Council, you are under arrest for war crimes, murder, and treason against humanity. You will stand trial on Earth." Security teams took him away. Yuna stayed on the bridge, looking out at the wreckage of the battle. The war wasn't over yet, but the hardest part was done. The galaxy had learned what humanity could do when pushed too far. Now it would learn what justice looked like when delivered by those who had begged for peace and received war instead. 6 months after the attack on the Mercy's Light, the war was over. Not just Earth's war with the Valon, all war. The galaxy had spent a century fighting, and in half a year humanity had brought it to an end. The Valon dominion was broken. Their territory was occupied by Terran forces. Their fleets were scattered or destroyed. Their leadership stood in chains, waiting to answer for their crimes. The empire that had terrorized half the galaxy for generations was finished. The trial was held on Earth, in the rebuilt city of Seoul. The Galactic Assembly sent observers, but this was a human court for human crimes. Admiral Minho Choi stood before the judges wearing prison gray instead of his Valon uniform. Taejin Lee, now serving as High Chancellor of Earth, presided over the proceedings. He looked older than he had 6 months ago. The war had cost him something, even in victory. "Admiral Choi," Taejin began, "you are charged with ordering the attack on a protected hospital ship, resulting in the deaths of 1,753 people. You are charged with war crimes. You are charged with treason against humanity. How do you respond?" Minho stood straight, his face showing no emotion. "I did what I thought was necessary. I believed Earth needed to see the reality of the galaxy. I believed our neutrality was helping our enemies. I was trying to force us to fight. And did it work?" Taejin asked quietly. "Are you happy with what you forced us to become?" For the first time, Minho's mask cracked. His eyes went to the screens showing images of the battles, the destroyed Valon ships, the occupied territories. Earth had entered the war just as he wanted, but not the way he imagined. "I thought we would join the Valon," he said. "I thought Earth would see that the Kresh were the real enemy. You thought we would pick a side in your war," Taejin interrupted. "You were wrong. When you attacked that hospital ship, you didn't make us choose between the Valon and the Kresh. You made us choose between the galaxy that tolerates such actions and the galaxy that doesn't. We chose the second one." The trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. The recording of the attack, the testimony of survivors, the analysis of tactical decisions. There was no doubt about what happened or who gave the order. The judges delivered their verdict. Guilty on all counts. For the sentence, Taejin stood. The easy punishment would be death. "You took lives, so we take yours. But that would be too simple. You destroyed a hospital ship. You killed healers, so you will spend the rest of your life healing others." Minho looked up in confusion. "The new UHNS Mercy's Light is being completed." Taejin continued. "It's bigger than the first one, more advanced, better protected. You will serve aboard that ship as a medical orderly. You will clean beds, you will move patients, you will do the work you thought was beneath a warrior, and you will see every day the difference between destroying life and saving it." "That's not justice," Minho said bitterly. "No," Taejin agreed. "It's mercy, something you forgot humans are capable of even now." The Valon leadership faced their own trials. Some were executed for ordering attacks on civilian targets. Others received long prison sentences. The empire was dissolved, its territory divided into independent zones overseen by Terran peacekeeping forces. Fleet Admiral Doyen Kang stood in the command center on Arcturus Station, now serving as the headquarters for the Terran occupation forces. He watched the screens showing Valon space, seeing the slow process of rebuilding begin. "They're asking how long we'll stay," his aide reported. "The Valon governors want to know when we'll leave." "Tell them we'll leave when they learn to live in peace," Doyen said. And not a moment before, it wasn't a popular answer. The Valon had been a proud empire. Now they were occupied territory, their fate decided by the very species they had tried to force into their war. But the occupation was firm and fair. The Terran forces protected civilian populations, prevented violence, and slowly rebuilt the infrastructure that had been destroyed. Commander Hyunwoo Nam's Ghost Squadron continued to patrol the borders, making sure no one tried to restart the fighting. The other species watched in amazement as human stealth ships appeared from nowhere, checked on the peace, and vanished again. The message was clear. Earth was watching. Earth would always be watching. Sergeant Bowman Jang found himself training Valon security forces in modern defense techniques. It was strange, teaching the same people he had fought against, but orders were orders. "You rely too much on your weapons," he told them. "What happens when someone gets past your shields? When they're in your stations, in your ships? You need to know how to fight with your hands, with whatever tools you can find." The Valon soldiers practiced reluctantly at first, but they learned. Slowly, they began to see that the humans weren't conquerors. They were teachers, strict but fair, harsh but just. The Kresh Collective approached Earth with a proposal. "We want a treaty," their ambassador said. "Not just peace, partnership. We saw what you did to the Valon. We don't ever want to face that. But more than that, we want what you have. You balance strength and mercy. You know when to heal and when to fight. Teach us." Taejin met with them in the diplomatic chambers, the same place where he had defended Earth's neutrality so many times before. "Why should we trust you? Your empire spent a century at war. You killed millions." "Because we were stuck in a cycle," the Kresh ambassador replied. "The Valon attacked us, so we attacked back. They escalated, we escalated. Neither side could stop without looking weak. You broke the cycle. You showed us there's another way. The treaty was signed 3 months later. The Kresh Collective and Earth formed a defensive alliance. More importantly, they formed a partnership. Kresh engineers would help rebuild the galaxy. Human medical teams would return to space, this time with military escorts to ensure they were never attacked again. Other species watched and learned. They saw that Earth's power came from more than weapons. It came from the willingness to use force only when necessary, to balance justice with mercy, to remember that the goal of war was peace, not victory. The coalition of free worlds was formed with Earth at its center. Dozens of species who had stayed neutral during the Century War now came together, united by the principle that military power should protect life, not destroy it. Captain Yuna Shin stood on the bridge of the UHNS Mercy's Light II, looking at the memorial wall that dominated the command center. 1,753 names, each one carved in metal that would never tarnish. Captain Park, Dr. Kim, every patient, every crew member, everyone who died because they tried to help. "We're ready to launch," her first officer reported. Yuna touched the memorial wall gently. "Take us out. Let's go save some lives." The new hospital ship was different from the first. It was bigger, faster, equipped with the best medical technology Earth could build. But the biggest difference was the escort. 10 warships traveled with the Mercy's Light II, including 2 of Commander Hyunwoo's Ghost Squadron. The message was clear. Humanity would still heal the wounded, but anyone who threatened healers would face the full force of Terran military power. The ship's first mission was in former Valon space, responding to a mining accident that had trapped workers underground. Yuna's crew worked for 36 hours straight, pulling survivors from the collapsed tunnels, treating injuries, saving lives. Some of the miners were former Valon military. They recognized the human uniforms, the symbol of the ship. They expected hate, revenge, punishment. Instead, they got medicine, care, and healing. Why? One of them asked Dr. Hanasong, the ship's new chief medical officer. "We fought against you. We supported the empire that killed your people. Why save us?" Hana looked at the Valon miner with tired eyes. "Because you're not our enemy. You're a person who needs help. That's all that matters." It was the lesson Earth had been trying to teach the galaxy for decades. Now finally they were learning it. Taejin visited the Mercy's Light II during its first return to Earth. He walked through the medical bays, seeing the crew work, seeing the patients recover. He stopped at the memorial wall, reading the names. "Do you think they would approve?" Yuna asked, coming to stand beside him. Captain Park and Dr. Kim, they believed in pure neutrality. "Now we sail with warships as escorts." Taejin was quiet for a long moment. "They believed in saving lives. We've saved billions by showing the galaxy that mercy has limits, that those who attack healers will face justice, that peace is worth fighting for." He looked at Yuna. "Yes, I think they would approve. I think they would understand that sometimes the only way to protect peace is to be strong enough to enforce it." The Mercy's Light 2 continued its work, moving through the galaxy, healing the wounded, helping the sick, bringing hope to places that had forgotten what peace looked like. And everywhere it went, the Terran warships followed, silent guardians ensuring that the mistakes of the past would never happen again. Earth had refused to join the war. But when one empire targeted a hospital ship, Earth didn't just join. Earth ended it. They showed the galaxy that true strength wasn't about the willingness to fight. It was about knowing when fighting was necessary and having the power to win quickly and completely when that moment came. The Century War was over. The age of human peace had begun, and every species in the galaxy knew that peace would be protected by people who understood its value, because they had been forced to fight for it. In the observation deck of the Mercy's Light 2, Yuna stood looking at the stars. They seemed different now, less cold, less hostile. The galaxy was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing. Behind her, the medical bay hummed with activity. In front of her, the escort ships kept their silent watch. And all around, the galaxy learned a lesson that would echo for generations. Never attack those who offer mercy, because mercy is not weakness. It's strength held in check, and when you break that mercy, you unleash something far more terrible than any warrior could ever be. You unleash those who wanted peace and now know the price of war. Earth had learned that price, and the galaxy would never forget it.